um, sector that really was new to GIS. And that ended up being a really great pivot because out of that came some great new uses of GIS for, I like to say business decisions. So you're going to hear a thread of real estate in what I'm talking about, but I would argue that whether you're in government, whether you're in a nonprofit, whether you're in a private business, people make business decisions all the time, and they are better when they involve location. So I'm going to talk about that. My entire career, as Maya said, has been focused on how do I make this fabulous technology that I bet everybody on this call understands really well, but most of the world scratches their head and says, I haven't heard of that, or I didn't know it could be used for that. And my latest kind of passion around this is how do we leverage all that's going on with AI to make GIS conversational? And some say democratize it, some say just increase kind of wider and taller acceptance of it. I just think everybody should use GIS, but not everybody can. So those of us that are in the industry focused on it, we set up the data and the framework and the things for it, and then imagine there being a tier that allows you to use it just like any other AI tool that folks are using today. So with that, I will get out of intros and just jump in and put some of this in context, which is if you think about the two massive industries on the screen here, one is GIS, location intelligence. That's been around for a really long time. And then there's also the AI industry, which is huge and growing dramatically fast. These space in between the two is what we like to think of location decision intelligence. It's very interesting because oftentimes in GIS, the tools come together for the purpose of kind of creating analyses, but I've often seen where analysts will say, I don't want to help you make the decision, but here's what the data is saying. And then on the other side of things, AI, we're adopting it, is constantly giving us its opinion and giving us some things. And um, I'll make the argument that right now those are disconnected, but where they intersect is a combination of location and decision intelligence. You guys have probably heard the term 80% of all business data has a location component. I think it's 100. I dare someone to give me something in business that does not tie back to location in some way. So location is huge, and both of these things are growing. But here's the problem, right? So the problem is, um, this was an actual prompt that I did a few months ago. I wanted to make a simple map of where our team was located. And I said, generate an image of the world, use orange, and put pins on LA, Denver, Dallas, Austin, Baltimore, and Ahmedabad, India. Make it landscape sized. And this is what it gave me. And even if you weren't GIS people, map people, like I'm sure you are, you would probably know that Austin is not in Africa and Baltimore is not in Southeast Asia. I was appalled by this. This was the latest. This was like last fall. I was like, this is GPT-5. And then I said, wait a minute, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing with this work. See, AI is good at language, it's good at logic, it's good at vision, it's really good at those. It's really not good at location. And if you ask it a location question, like is 123 Main Street a good location for a pizza shop, it's going to figure out the zip code and it's going to use language and logic to understand and answer that pretty well, but it's not leveraging the richness of a GIS approach that I've spent and you all have spent your careers pursuing. So this missing puzzle piece is what our work is about. And the problem with this is, I imagine on whatever team or whatever your role is doing GIS, there's not enough of you to go around, and you wish there were maybe 5x, 10x of you. As the demand for this grows, there's only so much we can do, and the tools are getting better, but the tools are fragmented. Often lots of different systems, and decisions are moving faster. And now, as people are relying on AI to get answers in like seconds or minutes, the how does GIS keep up with this, right? That's this problem. The other problem is you get these insights out of geospatial, and what do you do with them? What I did a year or two ago, and what I've seen some people in business do is You perform some analysis, you export it out, and then you upload a chat GPT and say, all right, help me understand this. So there's this export import. So it's that fragmentation, but it gives you it's some insight and some opinion. So I do believe everybody benefits from this, but I know that we as GIS professionals can't be everywhere. So what we've built and are building out is a fusion of several decades of GIS maturity with a few decades of artificial intelligence to bring together this tier that is location decision intelligence. What this allows then is a natural language query, the ability to just ask a question like somebody that you might serve with GIS, and they would come into your office and say, can you help me understand this parcel? Can you help me understand the impact on this infrastructure? Can you let me know if the hurricane impact is going to affect, which of our assets? So all of those questions, you probably know how to answer those, but it takes some time. But what if that natural language question could be asked directly by that decision maker? And that's what I'm going to demonstrate for you, and what I think we're just at the beginning of some really great things. So we've built an application. We call it Curated. We're curating data, we're curating best technology, we're curating expertise into one place. And when I think of the word curated or curation, I think of things like Spotify or Netflix. And Spotify is my best example. If I just say, play me rainy Sunday morning jazz, somebody else has thought about a collection of music that I could listen to for that. So what if that same idea of a curation was available in GIS when somebody says, tell me if 123 Main Street is a strong location for a new development? And these agents, AI knows how to work with this, and then you get decision ready output in the form of PDFs, PowerPoints, story maps, dashboards, just through a conversation. And you can see this here. I'll show you this live, and then we can ask questions and go lots of different directions. I will kind of point out that what you're going to see and what I think is a bit unique about this, you're probably aware of things that Esri, for example, is doing in the AI space, and it's awesome because they're adding AI assistants to write Arcade, and they're writing things for kind of getting access to tools within Pro. It's a GIS tool with an assistant or a lot of assistants and capabilities. I'm coming at this fresh as a 30-year guy, having always led GIS teams. Now, what I'm doing is we are an AI company that happens to know GIS. And I put happens to know in air quotes, I guess, because we know it really well, but it's an AI approach that incorporates GIS. It's that missing puzzle piece that you saw before. And so we talk about things like multi-agent orchestration. If you're familiar with AI, you know what that means, but maybe not in a GIS sense, right? So I'll show you that. There are these playbooks, and a playbook is a set of instructions that you give to AI in the same way that you give a recipe to a chef. You don't have to tell that chef how to cook, but you give some guidance to say, I need something gluten-free and Italian and of this portion, and then that chef knows what ingredients to get based on your request. So a playbook is a recipe of sorts. And we want to work with real data, right? You saw that hallucination earlier of the dots on the map, and that was a really simple thing. Let's just put some dots on a map. But what happens when you start talking demographics, when you start looking at connectivity and other elements? And so we're iterating on this, but it's an AI first approach, and it's not just a plug-in to AI. It's something pretty unique. How this works, you'll see this in action a couple different ways. A user asks a question. AI, there's an agent. It's kind of like I'll go with the food example. It's like the waiter or waitress who says, "All right, let me hear what you want," and then goes back and says, "All right, we've got some requests." So you come up with a plan, or maybe there's already a playbook on the shelf for this intent and this request. Either way, there's a plan, and it's handed to this orchestrator, which is like a head chef that has multiple chefs working for them, or a manager that has a multiple team working for it. And what this does is it connects to data, let's say in Salesforce or Google Drive or an API or an MCP server. It leverages spatial data. So if there's an Esri stack of data, of demographics or infrastructure, external, internal, all these sources, and it brings these in, and then it performs various actions. It analyzes, it summarizes, it zooms the map, it gives you interactivity with it. And then, most importantly, it generates this actionable output, which we call artifacts. And these are the documents that kind of stick with it even after the chat is complete. A look under a little deeper under the hood, some of the agents that operate. Some are geospatial, right? They understand geocoding and geoenrichment. Some are a little more sophisticated analysis. Let's look at point and polygon and distance and things. And others help you operate the map. Take me here, zoom the map in, turn layers on and off, these kinds of agents. But then there's agents that go into your CRM. There's agents that know how to execute, put all this together. There's agents that know how to, or an agent that knows how to export it out. Like, what is a PDF? What is a PowerPoint? What are the specs? As well as going out and researching it. So imagine all of this together in one place. You don't have to imagine. I'm going to show you this in action. And Maya, feel free to get the hook because I'll probably go, down lots of paths here to just show a lot of things and pull me out if needed.
Okay.
But
Post your
I'm gonna,
questions, guys, as he's going. We'll
yeah.
get him at the end.
So here's where I'm gonna start, right? And let me move my little Zoom window off the screen here. Okay, so this is probably a familiar looking dashboard these days, right? 10 years ago or more, we would have said, oh, the Google simple box. You put something in and it takes you anywhere on the web. Now we have these apps like this that you ask a question and you start chats and things, and it does something. But this is special because this understands GIS. So I could ask a top level business question. I'm going to start with real estate, but I'll jump into some other examples. And I could simply say, tell me if 12 William Street in Bel Air, Maryland is a good location for an active adult multifamily community. So let's say I'm in real estate, right? And my job is to find sites for new development. And somebody said, hey, there's this thing in Bel Air. This is in my hometown in Maryland. And it's 12 William Street. And I don't know anything about it. So what if instead of asking somebody that could make a map and it would take a little bit longer than this, a playbook was exercised. Now my hands are off the wheel. If you can see me, my hands are in the air. It understood that intent and is like, oh, I have a playbook for this. So let me zoom in, let me drop a pin, tell me if this is the right location or not. And it's going to start giving me some feedback. Now, I'll apologize in advance because there's a lot of text and I'm just going to highlight a couple of things because I want to move you through a flow. But it's telling me some general information. This is a big residential and commercial hub, historic downtown charm. It's seen steady growth, a strong local economy. So this is like a general knowledge that you might get from any other AI, but we're going to get deep into the weeds here. And notice it put this pin on a map and it asked me some questions. So I could say, actually, the location is about 100 feet to the southwest. The purpose of this analysis is some early due diligence for a potential new development. And the trade area, that sounds good, 15 and 25 minutes. So I have the chance to negotiate and tweak this. And so I'm answering its questions. And I could stick with that pin because you notice that pin is actually inside of the parcel, but just want to show off here a little bit of how we're teaching this different ways to think. And you are looking at our most forward-looking version of this app. So I have another one on in the oven as a good cooking show, just in case we need to show anything differently. Okay. So it's done some analysis. It didn't move the pin. It might move the pin. I should have done that maybe first and then done this, but it's got that new location. And it's just saying very strong. It has done some analysis to say that the 15-minute trade area has 120,000 people. Here's the median age. There's an aging pipeline. So this is a little bit, higher than a national average. And sometimes when I do this site, it will give me that example. And then it just fast forwarded down to the end here. But if I say out here to this extended reach, it's saying, here's how many people. And it generated a lot more statistics. And now it's going to summarize those as well. Here's the median income. So it's 1.5 times the national average. So that's good. Here's the net worth. Understand home value, the median home value. So there's strong home equity. It taps into Esri's lifestyles here to say, um, it's savvy suburbanites. If you're familiar with Esri's tapestry data, that's what this is using. And it says they're typically empty nesters or near empty nesters, well educated, financially secure, enjoy fitness and cultural activities. And they might like this, right? And then it's tapping into some other sources. We have a data partner we work with called Dwellsy, and they've got really cool rent data. And so it is looking within 5 miles and it found 9 comps and it's giving me the average per month cost. And then it's doing some math for us here to say, well, if the median home is this and somebody gets 75% equity, here's what the rent is. So it's saying that equity is going to get 90% of the local rent. So residents in this area, if they were to move into a new real estate development, they couldn't just downsize their house. There would have to be some other wealth and some other things that would make this work. So we're going to continue to explore this site. And again, this is working through a playbook that has general instructions, but the location and the inputs are going to be different. So let's just say yes. I'll also point out, and you'll see this in a different context shortly, instead of just asking that business question, I could have said, take me to Bel Air, Maryland, drop a pin on 123 Main Street, tell me the demographics within 10 minutes. So I could, if I know what to ask, I could do that. But we're working from the assumption that sometimes people don't know what they don't know. A decision maker may not know what data is available. So we want to just give this friendly chat that helps you understand it. So now you notice it zoomed out, it dropped some pins on a map. I could click on these things and I could see that there's some healthcare, there's some businesses, various different things here. There's a farmer's market nearby. And and then it gives me a description of this, right? So I could explore it on the map. And by the way, this is an interactive map. I could move this around if I want, but I haven't really done that up until this point. It's saying healthcare, it's excellent. There's a physical therapy and a surgery center within a 5-minute walk. There's a hospital not too far. Great, what fitness nearby. Oops, it jumps to the bottom there. Um, Great fitness nearby, great shopping. It gives me specific examples. And by the way, any one of these, I could say, tell me more about all the medical providers that are here. Tell me more about the restaurants. What kinds of restaurants? All the things you would do in AI when you're not clear. I could, if I had time, continue to interrogate and ask questions about this. It's all held in its kind of this context that we're building. We look at the competitive landscape. Now, I don't have data in my map about the competition. I have a lot of data, but I can tell you I don't have data about a competitive set. So it did what we would do as humans. It did the best it could with what it had. It opened up another tab and it did a search, very targeted search for anything 55 and up. And it came back and it said, here are some communities that exist. Here's the competitive vulnerability about this. Here's the pricing context of what people are paying. So it found all this information, brought it in, and then it's also giving us a national context. It's saying, this active adult's pretty hot. It's got a really high occupancy. The supply is lagging right now. There's a demographic wave of baby boomers. And this is where I did this earlier with a client. I could upload and give more information and say, there's a big park nearby, or there's something, or here's my PDF offering memorandum, and give that to it. And it helps round out the analysis and things. But I'm just going to say proceed because, as I said, I have 4 hours to do, but I'm going to keep it in the next 15 minutes to show you several other things as well. But running through this playbook, hold your hand. The client that I referenced that used this earlier was not a very tech savvy person, but was someone that was interested in AI and is used to using other AI tools. So this idea of chatting with the map was really useful. And he was asking questions that, the map on the right was responding to, and is pretty cool. So now it's giving me this executive summary. Let me just go back to this view for a moment. So it's an excellent opportunity. It tells me why. Again, it gives me this scoring table, which, by the way, we could tweak or we could kind of like if things are different, we could do this in chat or we could change a playbook. But it scores all of these and gives us an overall of an 8. Sorry, an 8.9 is the score. And it's saying you've got a lot of headroom on affordability. There's a great pipeline, great amenities, pretty good regulatory positioning. So it did some searching about the county and things, but it is saying here's some red flags. Land cost might be complicated. Zoning, we got to check it. So it's a strong go. And I could ask it, to generate a PDF, and it's going to give me a link for that. What I also could do, and maybe I'll come back to this because I want to show you the breadth of some other ways that AI is kind of interacting with GIS. But I could ask it to generate a something like a story map, if you're familiar with those. So an interactive presentation that takes this data and generates or uses uploaded images, puts all these demographic insights into something, and makes it basically an interactive website, HTML, that has maps and things that zoom, much like a story map, and it's using the same kind of underlying technology. Here's my download if I wanted to download this particular data. So um, that is a playbook that is curated. I also want to point out that what we have recognized is that lots of people are kind of embedded and engaged with ArcGIS and an Esri subscription. So we have created a connection, a widget that you see here that gets configured and connects with web maps within an ArcGIS Experience Builder environment. So what you're going to see if I show you this particular app, it's a web app builder. Sorry, not web app builder. You can age me there. It's Experience Builder, and this is a web map. This could be any web map. I'll show you one or two other examples. This happens to be utilities, and I could do the same thing here that I did in that kind of native app, and I could say something like, show me only utility transmission lines that carry more than 400 kilovolts. Way more fun than building a SQL query. I mean, I like SQL and I like all it can do, but kind of clicking and dragging and pulling things down. Let's let AI help us with this, particularly if I'm not savvy to that. So there's those transmission lines. I also could show me weather watches and warnings. Now, I'll point out that if you're familiar with what Esri is doing with AI, they have a data explorer, and you have to pre-train some of the layers, as I understand it. Our architecture complements that and is a little different in that this is reading the web map kind of in real time. So whatever's in the web map, if I add new data, if I swap out the web map, it's reading it. It's doing what we would do as humans and saying, oh, which one was weather watches and warnings? There's a long list. It finds this, it turns it on. Same with when I do a query, it looks at the fields and it does the best kind of understanding that it can do. Um, can you show me any areas that are tornado watch areas? Okay, so let's ask that question. Should filter out and just show us tornado watch areas. So you see this yellow patch here. And now I could say, show me the transmission lines inside of those areas. Kind of my natural language prompt for do a line in polygon analysis. These could be critical infrastructure schools. They could be my portfolio. They could be other assets, other businesses, other things. But you can see it filtered that down. Um, and can you summarize those transmission lines? Kinds of things it can do. It can zoom, it can drop pins, it can do these kinds of spatial analysis. Of course, it can run playbooks. You can see here, just make this a little bit bigger. So it's giving me this natural language synthesis. So, in this case, maybe um, I'm technical and I'm a kind of in the middle GIS user, right? I'm not necessarily didn't study it, but I know how to use it. Um, this saved me a lot of time to figure out, let me just copy and paste this into a slide or the report or something because I need to brief, my executives, my emergency operation lead or whatever that might be. And I could continue to ask questions. Well, I guess, okay, so this told me like who the owners were. I could ask more questions of the data based upon the data. I'll show you another example here. And this, I should point out too, like we're not controlling any of the feature services that, like National Weather Service. That's just an external feature service that we have. Other ones could be internal. So anything that you can do within a web map, you're doing that within this environment as well. But I want to point out that it can work through large amounts of data. Let me prompt this. Take me to Iowa and show me crash data. So this is the last couple of years of highway crash data for Iowa. So just a public web service that somebody had shared with me because we wanted to really test out, what do we do when there's a lot of data? And in a nutshell, the this is as performant as it would be without a chatbot, right? If you were to turn something on, this kind of like slow rendering is more about the feature service and the experience builder and how that's configured. But you could see by how that loaded, there's a lot of data. And I could click on it. I could open up a table. I could see, what's in here and what might I want to query on. But instead, I'm just going to say, show me only crashes that involved an animal and resulted in a fatality. So I don't know. I'd have to spend a little bit of time looking through here and figuring out, all right, which field do I use? Severity, is there anything about fatality? Kind of looking for this. Meanwhile, AI is doing the same thing a little bit faster than me, and it came back and it gave me all of this information. So I've got that back in 2018, on June 29th, there was a collision with an animal, one vehicle involved, occupant involved, and there was sadly a fatality and all the information that's in that pop-up, right? So traditional GIS presented, but a nice natural language front end here. And I could do the same kind of thing within, just here's another example that I was thinking of, which is a local government example to say something like, show me subdivisions and then filter for Naperville Heights. I could say filter, I could say show me Naperville Heights subdivision. I can ask this a lot of different ways, right? This, by the way, this data was a mess. Purposely, I didn't clean it up. If you clean up aliases and things like that, it makes it a little bit easier for AI to do its thing. But um, now I could just say, show me fire hydrants. And truly, when I got in here, I'm just like, all right, where's fire hydrants? What would that be under? Oh, it's probably underwater, but let me just hands off. You can see AI is going to figure that out. Turn a bunch of layers on. I can open this up and see, okay, it turned everything on. So it did a decent job and I could correct it, right? I mean, this thing isn't perfect and you still need to be a human in the process. But I could just say turn off all the layers underwater except for the fire hydrants. And it's funny because we originally set out to design this to be, so easy a real estate person could do it, or an executive who doesn't really know GIS. But some of the things now, as you saw in the last example of the crashes, it can do it a little faster than me. And I've got 30 years of savvy of going and finding layers and knowing what cryptic names and things look like and what they are. But you'll notice it turned all those layers off except for that one. And then the last question I'm going to ask here is, show me only the fire hydrants inside of that subdivision called Naperville Heights. I probably don't have to say Naperville Heights. It should remember that that was the last subdivision we were talking about, but just for time's sake, um, I will do this, and you'll see it does a nice little point and polygon. And then I could say, give me a table of these and make sure you include asset ID and date inspected. And again, talk about tons of information. If I go here into hydrants, I don't know what all this stuff means, right? I'm not a water utilities guy. But if I did, this would be more powerful, right? So like now I've got this list of these, and I've got okay, we didn't have inspection data in the data, but here's my list of these, and I could copy paste this out, export it out as a CSV or something like that. So I'm going to do one more prompt, and while it's running, I think it's a good time to tee up some questions that we have. And that one more prompt. Oh, I already had done it. Sorry about that. Let's. That was the cheat. Okay. Take
You
me
want
to
me to?
Tallahassee, Florida, and turn on tornado damage areas. Go ahead, Maya.
Well, I was just wondering if did you want me to wait? You're going to keep going because it's already queued up, or do you want me to ask a question?
Go ahead and
Whenever
ask
you're ready.
questions, and I've just got one more prompt after this, so I think I can multitask here.
Okay, so someone asked when you were talking about finding a good site for multifamily in Bel Air, someone asked, can you do it the other way? Ask what a site is suitable for and weave in the local development code.
Yes, that's the short answer. The longer answer, I was doing something similar with testing out a property in my town and saying, what would this be good for? That age-old question of kind of based on the demographics, what kinds of businesses would make sense here, and the things that a real estate broker, savvy broker would know, or a local economic development would know, but AI could help you with that. And absolutely, one of the data providers we work with is a group called Zonomics. And but if you're working locally with zoning, as long as it has the access of what that information is, it can combine the GIS insights with any of that other, any other information.
Excellent, excellent. Do you want to keep going and then we'll,
Yep.
okay, go ahead.
I'll just show me all in this area, right? So this is a historic, just a sample historic tornado damage area. And I just came in and said, take me here, show me this layer. Now, these were already in the web map, but where we're going is if it's not in the web map, it can go out and kind of find what's available within, a living atlas or your portal or something if needed. But now it's like, oh, okay, critical infrastructure, that's things like power plants, hospitals, schools, etc. Um, Show me only the critical infrastructure inside of those damage areas. Okay. So it would filter it down, give me a summary, and there's a playbook that we could run that would be a little bit more elaborate, and it would generate like a situation report in a format, like kind of give it a certain output format for this. But go ahead, hit me with another question.
All righty. Will it list the sources it is looking at to come up with the results?
Yes.
Short answers.
I mean, I can elaborate if needed, but it can, and there are some. I mean, we could tell it to list it, or we could tell it not to. In most cases, you want that breadcrumb trail to be able to go back and see that, right?
Yeah, for sure. And then I have a related question, but maybe a little bit more, which says, will this analysis be back with lists of source data? How do we verify the accuracy and recency of the quality of the data, parcel, demographics, aerial data, etc.?
I mean, that's the same issue that it would be with, say, an experience builder app without AI, right? You should have authoritative data. The person who is configuring and orienting it, like we have a version of this that we make available to somebody that is just new to GIS, right? So we've verified that it's the best available data that's out there. Might be Esri demographics, it's other coming from Homeland Security or whatever federal agency. But it, like anything else, it's a tool, and you should trust but verify and understand just that there's nothing in this is magic. It looks magic, but you do have to still verify that. And then what we also do, like you see in other AI tools, and you may not have seen this here, but like kind of in other implementations and where we're going with it, it would give you the what is the source of this or that data. In fact, if I go back here, let me just add. Sources of data you use for this. Okay. So I'll just let you see this play out, but go ahead and you can hit me with the next question.
Um, I have a few more, but on what you were just saying, someone just commented, ask the AI about the data quality as well.
Yeah. I mean, at some point you can break this and say like, oh, it's is it the latest and greatest? Is it coming from like, but I mean, we're being transparent with where these things come from. But yeah, I mean, let's ask it. How here? How trustworthy is this data as it relates to data quality and currency? And I also would say when we do an implementation of this in like an enterprise environment, there's a lot more that you can a lot more guardrails you can put in, which is saying like, make sure you use our SOP, use our latest data. Here's the legal disclaimer you need to put on every output PDF and whatever that might be, right? Like those can be architected in.
That's so cool.
So it's
Okay.
giving us the dates
Guess the
and the
source.
times and
Yep. Highly trustworthy. It's good.
it might take a few months, right? So we're kind of cueing people into what's kind of what's trustworthy about this. And I could probably dig in even further with this if I like, tell me more about this. Like we've done that kind of work a lot. The other thing that I'll use this moment to preach, if you will, because this resonates with a lot of people. The human AI relationship is so important in all of this, and foundationally, the reason we're doing this is to make humans be more human, like more relationship oriented, use their creativity to make decisions and not use up all of their bandwidth to try to get the data and bring it together and do stuff. And then you've got like 1% of your time left to make a decision. We want 1% to do the analysis. You got 99% to be creative, nuanced thinking human beings. And I've learned, I don't take credit for this, but I'm advancing this. Somebody shared with me, I can't remember who, but a golden ratio, I call it, of human and AI, and it's 20, 60, 20. Um, and hopefully this resonates with you, whether you're using it or your kids are using it for school or you're using it for work or you're using it for something else. 20% really good human input at the front end. That's the prompting, right? The better the prompts, the better the output. So 20% human at the front end, 60% AI lift to get through a lot of stuff, and then 20% refinement at the end. And here's the thing, if you don't do the 20% at the front end, you're kind of cheating. I mean, school is the best example. Like, write me a paper on GIS, right? Versus write me a paper that incorporates this research, and here's my thought. So if you don't do the 20% at the front, you're cheating. If you don't do the 20% at the end, you're sloppy. And if you put those bookmarks on either end of your AI, you have a lot better chance of using it in a way that is really advancing and not causing more problems.
I love that 20, 60, 20. That's great.
And then somebody debated with me. They're like, well, it's probably going to be 10, 90, 10 or 10, 80, 10. I'm like, yeah, okay. I mean, AI is going to get better, but
Either
I think
way,
there's going to be more that we'll do. So let's keep the humans involved.
humans need to be involved in the front end and in the back end. So, um, are you ready for more questions, or did you want to say some more about what you're
No, please, if there's
okay?
questions, happy to.
Next question was, what about traffic congestion?
Um, like traffic counts,
Uh,
or I could, that's a data set that
I
we
think you
have.
were talking.
There's also like live traffic within Esri we could grab. I don't know if that's in my web map, but
Feel free to, if you want to clarify the question, feel free to unmute and just jump in. We're very informal here. I don't know the answer to that, Matt.
yeah. So here's some traffic counts that we just, dropped onto the map. I'll turn parcels
Oh,
on so you
when
can
talking
see.
about city like Bel Air, she says.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be like um if there was, I mean, here's the cool thing, right? If there's data that exists within the Living Atlas, within ArcGIS Online for traffic congestion, I could add this, and but I don't. You guys know from like I don't know who this is and where this comes from, but Um, and this is the role of you all, right? Like, I also a question that I'm sure is coming or is in your head is this thing going to replace me as a GIS professional? Like, heck no. You're just going to get to do like cooler things, different things, more things. So understanding what data is appropriate for the people that you're using, like the more that you help AI on the front end of let's load up a web map with the right kind of additional data, the better it's going to do. But if that data was in the map, if there was something that showed traffic congestion or anything like that, it would incorporate that in the analysis. And if it didn't, we'd ask it to, right? So because we can, this isn't like you have to follow the prompts. It's not Mad Libs. You can, it's going to default and say, well, here's step one, step two, step three. But just like that server in a restaurant, if you say, you know what, I want a lot of extra spice in my pasta, they're going to do that and they're going to go off script for you.
Okay, excellent. Is curated a subscription service?
It is. Yes.
Okay.
And it's kind of subscription, kind of all put together if someone's kind of net new. But as you saw from Experience Builder, like a lot of organizations already have a footprint. So we're an Esri, I think I mentioned this at the start, we're an Esri Gold partner. So it fits on top of that. And there's a lot of maybe other sub questions under that. I'm happy to follow up and answer later if people have questions. But, does it leverage enterprise? Can I bring my own AI key? Can I keep it on-prem because of secure? Like all of those are yes, yes, and yes. And we've kind of over the last 2 years, we've evolved that because originally you couldn't bring it on-prem. Now you can.
Okay, excellent. Got some more here.
Yeah.
Let's see. So for crash data or data that continuously gets updated monthly, can this build a web app that gathers that data and data scrapes and updates on the back end once the data is published and continuously updates, say, a dashboard with the data being pulled?
A lot of things going on there. The salesman in me is going to say yes, but let me break that down technically. On the delivery, I'll kind of work backwards through the question. On the delivery, anything that's in a feature service being delivered, if that's updating continuously, then you're going to experience it updated. That's just like any other GIS app, right? So that is the same infrastructure. Now, on does AI can AI build it? Yes, and yes modified. So the yes, if I were to say, show me all of the fitness clubs within a 10-minute drive and tell me what the average subscription cost is to be a member and put it in a table. So I'm going to hope that this performs the way I think it will. This is not a persistent, like put it into a feature service, et cetera, et cetera. This is where there's some Esri pieces on the back end that I would say part of the modified yes is let's take this AI logic, but put it into something that is a continual ETL, harvesting it and bringing it in and formatting it. That's the services work that our professional services group does frequently, right? There oftentimes are things that have nothing to do with geospatial. It's integrating data and building AI automations. And then that last hop is now let's put it into a feature service. So all of that, absolutely, you could do. But imagine, I mean, you just saw kind of like with zero pre-training, it came up with this and it gave us these locations and an estimated monthly cost and the detail. But imagine then taking some of the time to say, all right, map these into these fields, do a double check on this other data set that we have, et cetera, et cetera. But kind of in a real time, you can see what it's done here, and it also put these on the map. So if I click here, I can see here's a YMCA, here's Hartford Gymnastics. All of this particular data is here. So varying levels of a yes on that.
Oh, excellent. So cool to watch it just do that on the fly.
It is.
Next question. Any thoughts on the quality of GIS data publicly available? I am constantly frustrated about how bad some data is. I mean, preach it. We are all
Yep.
have experienced that. So, what are your thoughts, Matt?
So I had a heavy hand in naming our application curated, and I do listen to Spotify a lot. And if you guys can kind of imagine that same like I could answer that same thing and say, like, without somebody building good playlists for me, there's a lot of crap. There's a lot of stuff that I don't want to listen to, right? So I have certain ways and people that I might follow or things that I do in terms of music. Same thing here. And what I pride myself in is my 30 years learning, okay, who are the trusted data providers? And there's some premium, pay for some more data companies, but then there's also authoritative data from different agencies. And I also know in local government tends to be pretty good data. It's not normalized across larger geographies if you go across counties. And so all of that is there, and the very name curated is to try to find what the best is. But to be sure, I mean, you saw me hit that add data, and I always tell clients, like, if you go out here and you hit add data and you go to ArcGIS, and then especially if you go outside Living Atlas, like it's like going into the jungle. You better have, your machete. You better know what to look for on the ground. You need to know a little bit about what to look for. But if you do, there's a lot there, right? I could uh, see if I could do the City of Allen. No, City of Allen GIS. I don't know. Um, but all the hacks, and I could find and get stuff. But complicated answer to your question. I agree. There's a lot of bad data out there. So our goal is to kind of bring all of that into an AI context, and then know that your answers are going to be, you know, pretty good, but still verify them as humans.
It's totally fair.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. I've got a bunch more questions, so I hope you're here for a couple hours.
Sure. I'm happy to. And I'm gonna
Just
put this
kidding.
back up so
Not
you
that
guys
long,
have my
everybody.
my email address if you do have any follow-ups that we don't have time for. And Maya can help you get connected to me, and feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's see. Does the service pull in disclaimers about the data from the metadata?
Uh, it can, yes. So again, if that's in the metadata and it's there, it can. If it's not, um, you know, that could be something that's done to close the gap, or um, kind of more manually put in place. But the better, it's same story that it's been for years. Like, if that's there, we can leverage it and see it. If not, you kind of have to do the best you can with what you got.
Garbage in, garbage out, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I may have missed it, but is curated utilizing open data, or are you able to feed it your own? If you're feeding it your own, what does the storage of that information look like? Does it hold this information in a cloud somewhere for access later? It should be common sense not to share proprietary data, but if it proves to be beneficial for a project and gets approved, is there any protection of that data? Sorry, that was a lot of questions in one.
Yeah. And we covered parts of that, but I'll put it all together for that question. So, um, in the box, so to speak, we don't actually have a box, but in the box, there is a collection of kind of publicly available data. And by publicly, I'll widen that a little bit to some of the core data sets within Esri, because we're bringing an Esri license with this if somebody is net new, right? If you're brand new and you don't have an Esri implementation, like, all of that is in the box. In most cases, and probably most people in this virtual room, there's already an existing ArcGIS infrastructure. So the question of, can you bring your own data? You're going to bring it into that GIS stack, and Curated sits on top of that and knows how to read it. Think of Curated as a colleague that has learned how to look at geospatial data and filter it and symbolize it and geocode it and do all those things. So we made this strategic decision. We're not going to host data and build our own storage. We're going to leverage the industry standard, which we believe is Esri, to do that. And that can look a lot of ways. That could be ArcGIS Online. And a lot of organizations, even some large organizations, are using ArcGIS Online. But of course, ArcGIS Online is a multi-tenant SaaS hosted by Esri. Some people say, no, we need to be on-prem and we need our own secured infrastructure. We need enterprise. Everything is internal, and we're going to completely firewall off everything else. We are in the process of some implementations of Curated, where we imagine bringing the code in to the server room and installing it, and it's not going out anywhere. And all of the tech that we built it on, we built it in a way that can be brought in-house for those secure reasons. It's a bigger implementation, then here's the link to activate your account. But absolutely important for a lot of data sets.
Okay, cool. Um, okay, so I had one person write some comments and said, "This is truly the next step in leveraging spatial intelligence, and you guys are doing great work." Woo!
Thank you.
My questions pertain to how this tool differentiates itself from whatever Esri is or will be releasing later this year related to AI assistants, agents, or its ArcGIS Maps SDK for JavaScript, which enables agents as well.
Yep.
I believe there is a selling angle on your product, which is why I'm asking, as it would be redundant to get, for example, your widget for Experience Builder when Esri will release something closely similar in nature. What does this have that takes it a step above what an open box AI assistant would provide?
Does anybody have time for a beer? We could talk. Now, we are an Esri partner, and we are having very active conversations with Esri about how we fit together. So, one way that I think about how we complement each other is there's a buy build decision. Esri is sharing capabilities that users who know how to put those capabilities together and know how to use an SDK and know how to um, build agents and things, they can do that. Um, Ours is we've already done a lot of that work, and we've done it in a way that we feel is oriented towards not just real estate, but a lot of business decisions of, how do we fuse natural language with GIS and also, going beyond and again, every one of these conversations I've had with multiple people at Esri strategically, there are often needs to go beyond GIS to integrate information into GIS. And so that's the role of partners. They will say that Esri makes foundational technology, and so Esri's giving you the kit to build many of these things. We've already built the restaurant that has many of the dishes that you might build yourself. And so do you cook dinner yourself? Do you go out and get the meal? Both are options, and it's situational depending on your team and what your capabilities are and your bandwidth. But I would say there's multiple examples and growing of us going to market with Esri where sure, pieces of this could be leveraged through what they're releasing, which I would also say the SDK is out, it's in beta. It does like a few things. We're doing like 30 things with AI. So that the timeline is such that we can offer this right away. But as Esri Stack is growing, we'll continue to coordinate, and we might leverage Esri on the back end if it serves a better approach than how we're doing it.
Okay, excellent. And the same gentleman who asked that last question said, second question is related to the voice synthesizer being used for the curated AI. Was this built in-house or being sourced via third-party providers such as NVIDIA or 11 Labs? And if so, what are the governance structure built around it, i.e., does it adhere to regulatory AI standards? And if so, which ones?
That is a good and deep question that I cannot completely answer. But what I will say is that what you saw during the demo was two voice inputs. One, something that we built in, and I'd have to follow up and tell you exactly which technology we used for that. The other is I use a third-party voice app on my computer called WhisperFlow. If you haven't checked it out, highly recommend it. I just hit the function key and I talk. And so I can, in any app, not just in Curated, in any app, in an email, whatever, it does a good job of smoothing out the ands, likes, pauses, and it interprets what you say and it puts it in. I don't know the depth of the governance on that. What I will say is that our team is very committed to following all that stuff closely and making sure that, if we're going out and getting data on the web, we're not like scraping an entire database from somebody that we're not allowed to do that. Sometimes that's frustrating because it's like, it's right there, but we're not allowed to do it. We got to follow those rules and respect licensing and governance and that landscape. We also have all the pieces in place for like SOC 2 compliance and um, uh, CMMC and things like that are pretty close. Like we're following those procedures and we're in the process of certifying that. I don't know if that completely, I guess that feeds into your question. But I'm happy to follow up and give you a deeper answer to that. I'm not able to right at hand, but thank you for it.
Yeah. And I know we're right at the 1 o'clock. We've got several more questions. If you need to hop off, feel free. Matt, you still have a few more minutes to
I
answer
do,
some more?
yeah. I'm happy to stick
Okay,
around.
so we'll keep going. Um, Third question from the same person, I think, was in regards to the training material slash website used in training the AI. Which was it trained on, and was it open source data?
So this is a good question. Our approach is not we're not training it on any data. We're training it on how to look at data. We're training it how to look at web maps. We're training it how to look at fields and data types and geographies. We're teaching it GIS, right? So um, if there's anything it was trained on, it was probably me working with our team and saying, here's how you want to think about it. And then what it's doing is it's hitting various APIs of Vesri on the back end. It's like, oh, you're asking for demographics. Well, I know that there's a geo-enrichment API. Let me hit that and figure out what variables do you want based on the question, and let me send it. And let me be careful to not burn too many tokens because I don't want to burn through all of your AI credits or your curated credits or what however that would be limited. So we're not training it on data like this is a broader question of like what does AI mean, right? Like AI can mean a lot of different technologies, and oftentimes you are training on a data set. But everything we're building here is teaching it how to think and operate based upon the foundational knowledge that it has, plus what we've infused as what is a geographic approach. So that's the probably the short answer. And again, that's another longer conversation. I'm happy to talk more about if that's kind of relevant and specific to your world.
And I guys, I will vouch that Matt is extremely approachable. Like you can email him at any time, and though he's very busy, he will answer you. He's very good. Um, and also there will be a recording of this if you do have to hop off, but are curious to hear the rest of the questions and answers.
Yeah.
Um, I've got it recording now. I forgot to say it at the beginning, so I apologize, but we will have it up on YouTube hopefully within a week or so. But next question is, how difficult was this to build? I'm guessing they mean like the curated platform.
Uh, a variation of that question that people ask me is how long did it take to build? I usually say 30 years. Um, I don't know, like
Lots of institutional knowledge there.
how difficult is it for a Michelin star chef to put together, a filet mignon with a side of asparagus and garlic potatoes? I don't really know how to answer that. It was difficult. I mean, I can tell you even, and it still is difficult because as users, right? The hardest part is we build it for someone like me initially to say, all right, I'm going to ask this and this and this, and I needed to follow this. And it kind of goes along those guardrails. And then you put it in front of a 73-year-old real estate broker who asks these crazy questions. And I'm like, you're not supposed to ask that question. But of course he is. That's the whole point. And the benchmark has been, well, I can go to ChatGPT and I can get an answer. And then I'm like, yeah, but it's giving you not a geographic answer. Like it's not doing geo-enrichment. It's not doing drive times. It doesn't know contiguous, this is 200 feet from this point. And so like all of that, it was very difficult to build. But we had the right combination, I think, of, I have wisdom, which I'll claim is more from all the mistakes I've made over the years than the things that I've done right. Plus a really talented team that is AI first and not I mentioned this earlier, not a GIS team learning AI. It was an AI team learning GIS. So we came at it from that way, and that complements a lot of GIS teams that will always be a lot better at GIS things at the data level and at the analysis level. But the cool thing is, I had a question, somebody asking me, can we run like sophisticated geospatial analysis? Well, right now you saw point and polygon analysis and some synthesis of data, but there's no reason why we can't create the ability to plug in a geospatial model that you built in Model Builder or something. And as if the data's there and things are there, like have there be a conversational front end and the parameters. I mean, that would be in the realm right now of a custom implementation, but that kind of connectivity is where we'll continue to work with Esri and say, hey, you port this end of all of your tech in a certain way that we could speak to it, and then we'll build our thing, and then they can just talk. If you're familiar with MCP servers and like that agent to agent kind of communication, all of that is going to allow so much more capabilities to flourish. And so, anyways, as a really complicated answer, how difficult was this to build? But it was difficult, and I'm pretty experienced in the field, and it's difficult because AI is a bit of a new frontier.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see. Back to the traffic congestion. A congestion measurement for me is the difference in traffic during a public school spring break to the week before or after. Can this question be asked?
Hmm. I don't think we have like time series traffic data, but I know that if that data existed, Curated could parse through that and look at that, right? If those were different fields over time to say was April busier than December or what have you. So that I mean, it's kind of a data
Maybe someday if you had
question.
the right
Yeah, yeah, but I'm not
input.
aware of that data offhand. But that's a cool use case.
Yeah. Do you all work with Verta technology?
Presently, no. I'm familiar with them. I did interact with them at my last company, but presently, no.
Okay. AI capabilities seem to be expanding almost every 3 to 6 months. At a high level, what is your strategy to be able to keep your agents current to use the latest capabilities?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So one of my partners has been doing AI since before AI was like really popular and tokenized, and it was you weren't paying pennies for credits, you were paying $1 million to build an on-site LLM and do some things. And AI has been around a while. What's new is the kind of cost has come down, and that companies like Anthropic and OpenAI and Google have built these like models that you can rent, right? So they are advancing. And the short answer, if I haven't missed the short window, the short answer to that is the ability to switch which model. We already have that. I probably can't show you with the time, but we could just swap out and say, you know what, Opus 4.7 is out. I want to swap that model in. And we've built it to be resilient to take advantage of those different models. Of course, the thing to think about too with that we balance is Opus 4.7 is way more expensive than um, Gemini Flash Pro 2.1, 3.1, where we are. And so like you can bring your own AI key if you want to, but there's also the how fast are you churning through those credits and when you hit your maximums and things like that. But this is part of the hard work is AI will change dramatically, and we want to be taking advantage of it and not have it break things. So we've architected it in a way. I mean, that some of the answers that you saw with that first example, um, I that's a recent model we switched within the last week, and I'm pretty blown away by the thoughtfulness that it comes back with. Like, I didn't even think to ask that, and so
So
just
cool.
constant changing.
Yeah, I mean it with any technology, but especially with AI for sure.
Yeah.
Just a few more here. With AI changing the GIS professional landscape, where do you see the greatest needs today and over the next 5 years for newer and second career GIS professionals to effectively advance the development and adoption of location decision intelligence?
I love that question. We can't in the industry, we can't get comfortable. I mean, I don't know that any technology can ever get comfortable because things change and evolve. So you've got to continue to learn. Um, I adamantly believe that AI is not going to take any GIS professional's job, but somebody who knows AI is going to take some GIS professional's job. And so, as a GIS professional, whether you're existing, you're newer, second career, learn AI. If you don't know how to learn AI, ask AI how to learn AI. Give them your situation. Tell them, I want to vibe code. I want to build a model. I want to like it. The best resource that I have, and I used this early on when I needed to play the part of a AI architect and engineer. I was just like asking Claude, help me figure out how to answer these questions that are going to come up in this meeting. Now I've got a team of people behind me, and you want to find a network of people who are a little bit before you on your AI journey and maybe a little bit after you on your AI journey because you can help them. I'm fascinated by this notion of an AI journey because I remember when I first was skeptical, and then I remember when I first got ChatGPT, and then I remember when I more recently started using Claude and said, I'm not using ChatGPT ever again because Claude is so much better. And just this is all kind of like how we get exposed to this. So I would say, don't be afraid of it. Learn, practice things, use it for things you love, because use it for things in your personal life, and that's where you can make the mistakes on like working on a recipe or something, and then eventually, as you bring it in to your career, you can say, I have experience building an app for my community or for something like that, and you have a leg up over maybe GIS professionals that aren't embracing it. So
Mhm.
GIS
So
isn't
true.
going away at all. It's changing, and if you're coming in fresh, you probably have an advantage of that, but it's also a lot of work.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and this is the same gentleman that asked about data quality earlier. He said, as a follow-up comment on my data quality question, if you are presenting a live mapping project and someone asks to zoom into a particular spot, when they see overlapping or gapping polygons that should meet cleanly, the audience is likely to question the quality of all the other data presented on the map.
I hate that that's true, but I
It is
agree.
true. Yeah.
I agree. So, um, I mean, the way that aside from the things that we all know, right? Like, let's try not to let that happen. Let's try to just find and make good data. We've taught our system to fail well, and if it sees things, kind of acknowledge that. Like you notice that pin wasn't well. Actually, that pin was in the right location, but that came from a couple of weeks ago. This 73-year-old person that I was talking about, or 72, one of my partners was using this, and he was like, that pin is not in the right place. And there was this geocoding issue in Esri that seemed like Google was better. And we got into this big debate about like, well, why does Google know how to put the pin, but Esri doesn't? And so like that's a real problem, right? Like the quality of Esri's geocoder wasn't there. Come to find out, he had told Google where that was. You go into Google and say, here's what this address is. So that's how Google knew. But I've given that feedback to Esri. But still, like I was like, how do we make our app not discredit a simple geocoding? That's like my first map where, Baltimore was in Southeast Asia. And so we built the capability to fix it. So it didn't work because I gave it three prompts, but if I had said move that pin 100 feet to the west, it moves it. And so that's kind of the best you can do, along with letting people know that this is a tool and the data won't be perfect. So use it as needed, and let's just keep doing our job as GIS professionals to make better data and frankly to expose those things, because often the people that fund or the people that kind of support and kind of not lead initiatives like that, but you only understand why data quality is important and it's expensive or it's whatever, and when you see things like that. So putting things on a map, ugly shows up, and sometimes just use that, make the lemonade out of those lemons, I guess is all I could say.
Okay, last question. Thank you for everyone who's stuck
Yeah.
with us. How many government agencies are currently using your product?
37. No, I'm just kidding. I don't believe right now. Well, I take that back. We've got a project with City of Allen Fire that we did that is oriented towards um, monitoring weather and some things there. But for the most part, what you're seeing in Curated is relatively new, and it's been focused within the commercial space and some other kind of larger like utility space types of things. But I'm happy to have a conversation with any government agencies. I think there might be, AI governance, some of those legal
Hmm.
and policy things that
Yeah,
we're collecting wisdom as we go with that. But it's
sure.
new, so really I would say close to zero so far.
And my last question is, are you going to be at Esri UC?
I
Are you
will.
going to are you going
Yes.
to be on the floor? Are you going to have a booth?
We are not sure. I probably will not be have a booth.
Okay.
Although, times like today, I realize maybe we should as a place to land. But I will make sure that I share with you, Maya, where we'll be. And I mean, I'll be at the conference. I just don't know where we'll be
Okay. That's
centered.
fine.
Yeah.
Yes. We will connect, I hope. So,
Yeah.
okay, that is all of the questions I have. Matt, thank you so, so much for all of your time. Um, we had a lot of people attending today. I think I was was 110 or 112 or something, I think was some of the highest. I don't know. I wasn't watching it all the time, but uh, someone said great thought-provoking presentation. We've got a lot of feedback here, and we just appreciate it. So thank you so much. All the best with your newish company and getting those government bodies to join you, hopefully.
Yeah. Thanks for the opportunity to share and for everyone kind of listening to me talk way too fast and in too many directions at once. But I appreciate the opportunity.
All right, you guys, everyone, thank you so much. Have a great day. And this was recorded. We'll be posting it up on YouTube, our GPN Texas YouTube channel, as soon as we can. So everyone take care. Thank you so much. Bye, Matt.
Good.
Great to see
Thanks.
you.